Germany, Australia, and China. But here, I would like to invite panelists, Dr. Kang Sang-in from KEI and Kim Hana from Sejong University. But before proceeding our session 1, I'd like to ask simple but fundamental questions. Where we are, where are we situated in a context of civilization and society in general? But it's very difficult to answer this question. But as Ambassador Yu Yeon-chul indicated that Britain of atomic scientists raised the two existential threats of humankind. That is, one is nuclear weapons, the other is climate change. So there is imperative for us to address climate change issues in a very sense of urgency, because now some famous newspapers raise the term, the necessity to define how to define climate change. The right term would be climate crisis or climate disruption. In a sense, we should get on board so we gather together to address the climate change issues. And having said that, I'd like to give one point to address you. That is the last Katowice, COP24 results. That is the adoption of Paris Agreement Rulebook package. So now is the focus of discussion or negotiation is going toward more action. No more talks. Now we should go on to more action. That is the message from Secretary General Guterres. This message will be also delivered in a climate change action summit in September in New York, and also the COP25 in Chile. And so now we're going forward to the presentation itself. Today's session on this title is Paris Agreement Implementation Plans. We have 3 countries. Germany is one of the umbrella groups, and Australia also. But we have one from Europe, one from Asia Pacific. But they are different entities, but they are very committed to achieve their goals. But also China. China is a leading group of G7 in China. It's a very important climate action efforts in a global scale. In a sense, it's better to how to analyze and how to encourage these countries to go global efforts. That's very important. So that's why it's all the more important for today's IGC. Now, I invite 2 panelists here, Sang-in from Korea Environment Institute and Hana Kim from Sejong University. So we invite 2 panelists that listen to their overall comments and overall the questions, and then I'll go forward to specific questions and also I'll open the floor. Now I invite Mr. Sang-in Kang to have give some general comments about this presentation.
2022년하고 2023년에 글로벌 스톱 페이퍼에서 MBC를 어떻게 이행하고 있는지에 관한 첫 번째 지구적인 점검이 진행될 텐데 예상하기로는 이 정도의 준비 상황이면 어느 정도의 투명성이 확보될 것 같다라는 생각을 합니다. 그 세계 발표에 대해서 공통점하고 차별점이 있는데 한 3가지 정도 관점에서 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다. 첫 번째로는 세계 나라 공통적으로 국가 배출권 거래제라든지 혹은 배출권 거래제 시범 사업을 통해 가지고 이 대량 배출원이 관리되고 있다라고 하는 점을 볼 수가 있는 것 같습니다. 아시는 것처럼 유럽연합의 경우는 지역경제 공동체로 되어 있기 때문에 그게 유럽연합 차원에서 배출권 거래제가 진행이 되고 직접적인 그 관리를 받는 기업은 유럽연합에 있는 기업들이죠. 국가의 국적하고는 상관이 없이 그런 좀 특징적 지도 아래서 지방 성시들을 중심으로 각각의 인벤토리나 타겟이나 혹은 로드맵이 체계적으로 정리가 되고 그걸 뒷받침하기 위한 통계 시스템도 충분히 보완이 되고 있는 것 같습니다. 이런 점에서 보면은 국가의 주권을 통해 그 배출권 거래제를 통해 가지고 대학의 주권을 관리하고 나머지 잔해 배출원에 대해서는 지방 정부의 역할을 강조함으로써 이제 국가 배출원 전체를 관리할 수 있는 시스템이 갖춰져 있는 것 같습니다. 정책 수단. 세 번째로 흥미롭게 본 것은 대부분의 국가들이 재생에너지원의 공급을 확충하는 정책을 적극적으로 추진하고 있다는 걸 알 수가 있습니다. 호주 같은 경우는 이미 2018년에 전력의 20%를 충당하고 있고 한국하고 중국은 공통적으로 2030년에 전체 전력의 20%를 신재생에너지로 충당하게 있고 유럽 같은 경우는 2030년에 전력의 65%를 충당하고 2050년에는 완전하게 화석연료를 이제 가호시키는 그런 장기 전략을 가지고 있는 걸 볼 수가 있습니다. 이런 부분은 기존에 있던 에너지 시스템 자체를 핵심적으로 전환하는 공급 측면의 정책을 보다 적극적으로 추진하고 있다는 것을 알 수가 있는 것 같습니다. 이런 세 가지 점이 오늘 발표를 통해서 공통적으로 확인할 수 있는 부분인 것 같습니다. 그리고 질문 그냥 코멘트가 하나 있는데 이 부분은 이제 신재생 에너지를 굉장히 확대를 하게 되면 두 가지 기술적인 보전 요인들이 발생하는데 첫 번째가 전력의 품질을 어떻게 보장할 것인지 하는 문제하고 그 다음에 신재생 에너지의 이 발전 경향을 넘어서는 전력 피크에 있어서 전력의 효율 관리를 어떻게 할 것인지에 관한 문제가 공통적으로 등장하는 문제로 알고 있습니다. 특히 이러한 점이라고 하면은 기술적으로는 물론 스마트 그리드라든지 혹은 빅데이터 중심의 인공지능을 통해 가지고 이 일간 혹은 계절적인 신재생 에너지 발전량의 변동이라든지 전력 문제를 보장하는 일이라든지 혹은 특별한 시기에 피크로 일어나는 그 산업 전력의 피크 수요치를 관리하는 방법도 있다고 그러는데 이러한 부분 관련돼서 혹시 세 나라에서 그 수요 관리라든지 이런 부분의 정책 수단 이외에도 공급사에 대해 정책 요점들이 있는지 소개해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
감사드립니다. 우선적으로 이렇게 귀중한 자리를 마련해 주신 온실가스종합정보센터 관계자분들께 감사 말씀드리고 싶고요. 그리고 에너지를 공부하는 학자로서 여기에 토론자로서 참석하게 돼서 굉장히 기쁘게 생각합니다. 독일 그리고 호주 그리고 중국 이 당사국들이 어떻게 각자의 그 NDC를 이행하고 있고 또 투명성 체계 지침을 반영해서 또 이를 개선하기 위해서 어떤 노력을 기울이고 있는지에 대해서 들을 수 있어서 굉장히 뜻깊은 시간이었던 것 같습니다. 굉장히 흥미롭게 청취했습니다. 굉장히 이 나라들이 모두 다 굉장히 열심히 노력을 하고 있지만 안타깝게도 이미 2018년 유럽에서 발표한 Emissions Gap Report 2018에 따르면 현재 수준의 NDC가 금세기 말 지구온난화 2도씨 목표 달성에는 상당히 부족한 것으로 나와 있습니다. 이 부족분을 해결할 수 있는 여러 가지 조치 중에 하나로 이 유럽 갭 리포트에서 강조한 것 중에 하나가 바로 이 Non-Party Stakeholders의 참여에 대한 것이었는데요. 그 부분을 아까 강상민 박사님께서도 잠깐 얘기를 해주셨던 것 같습니다. 저는 그래서 중국이 발표한 그 로컬 거버먼트가 이 자체적으로 시행하고 있는 이런 이니셔티브가 확대되고 있다는 점을 굉장히 기쁘게 그리고 고무적이라고 생각을 했고 또 하나 더는 이 유럽에서는 각 자국에서 이 NDC 수준을 각 당사국들이 NDC 수준을 굉장히 강화해야 된다라고 했지만 이거는 조금은 저는 개인적으로 먼 이야기라고 생각합니다. 그래서 이 강화하는 것 외에도 우선 수립한 NDC의 이행을 제대로 하는 것이 저는 중요하다고 생각하는데요. 이 NDC의 이행을 제대로 하는 것이 그것의 근간이 되는 것이 MRV 시스템이고 또 이것에 대한 지침을 제공하는 것이 바로 트랜스퍼런시 시스템이라고 생각합니다. 그래서 이러한 내용들을 반영해서 중국이나 호주 그리고 독일이 개선을 보이고 있다는 점도 반갑게 들었습니다. 특히 최근에는 한국에서도 이 많은 온실가스 감축이라든지 에너지 전환과 관련해서 정책 및 계획 수립에 대해서 이런 거는 굉장히 열심히 하고 있는데 이행이 제대로 되고 있는가 혹은 이행 점검 체계를 제대로 갖추고 있는가에 대한 자성의 목소리가 있는 것 같습니다. 그래서 현재 우리나라 정부는 기후변화에 대한 기본 계획에 온실가스 감축의 실효성을 높이기 위해서 관계 부처 및 전문가가 참여하는 이행 점검 체계를 구축해서 이것을 이행 실적을 매년 점검할 계획을 가지고 있는데요. 이런 상황에서 예를 들면 아까 독일에서 발표해 주신 것처럼 독일에서 클라이밋 액트를 지금 준비하고 있다고 했는데 이 액트에서 내용 중에 Allocation of Responsibility to Sector Targets to Sector Ministries라고 하는 내용이 직접적으로 언급되어 있어서 이거 굉장히 좋은 방법이다라고 생각을 또 했었고 그리고 중국의 경우에서도 이런 이행 점검 체계의 하나의 일환인 것 같습니다. 그래서 매년 지방 정부 그러니까 provincial government인 것 같은데요. 이 government들이 매년 carbon intensity를 체크할 수 있도록 하고 있다라고 했습니다. 그래서 이러한 이행 점검 체계를 각 국가들이 이제 선도적으로 만들고 체크하고 있구나라고 하는 점을 또 알 수 있었습니다. 그래서 우리나라도 이런 점을 좀 염두에 두고 나아가야 되지 않을까라는 점을 생각했습니다. 또 하나 더는 제가 굉장히 제가 관심사에 기반을 두고 많은 얘기를 들었는데요. 특히나 우리나라 같은 경우에는 아까 제가 독일 발표자와도 개인적으로 얘기를 나눴었는데 우리나라는 굉장히 석탄화력 발전소의 비중이 굉장히 높습니다. 이 때문에 카본 트래커 이니셔티브 분석 결과에 따르면은 파리 기후협정 이행 결과로 우리나라가 재무적으로 리스크를 안게 되는 경우에 이것이 2040년까지 석탄 화력 발전의 재무적인 리스크가 1,060억 달러 정도로 세계적으로 가장 높은 수준일 것이다 라고 얘기를 했어요. 그래서 우리나라 또한 이런 상황에 닥쳐 있는데 지금 아까 폴 페이스 아웃 커미션이었던 것 같은데 그런 커미션을 만들어서 사회적인 합의를 도출해 가는 과정을 케어해 주셔서 그것도 굉장히 재미있게 들었습니다. 저는 이런 상황에서 제가 이제 또 다른 것도 굉장히 흥미롭게 들었는데요. 또 하나는 뭐였냐면 호주에서 1인당 재생에너지 투자가 세계 1위의 결과를 가져왔다라고 발표를 해주셨습니다. 그래서 저는 이제 이렇게 정리를 하고 제가 질문을 드리고 싶은 것은 지금 현재 우리나라도 석탄과 원자력에 대한 의존도를 낮추고 2030년까지 발전량 중 20%를 재생에너지로 조달하는 것을 목표로 하는 에너지 전환 정책을 추진하고 있습니다. 그런데 이 재생에너지 확대를 위해서 에너지 전환을 위한 근본적인 대책으로 가장 활발하게 논의되고 있는 것이 하지만 현실적으로 가장 어려운 것이 전력요금제도의 개선과 녹색 금융제도의 확대라고 최근에 많이 논의되고 있는데요. 저는 이제 호주 발표자분께 질문을 드리고 싶은데 호주에서는 어떤 녹색 금융제도를 가지고서 이렇게 지금 1인당 재생에너지 투자 세계 2위의 결과를 가져왔는지 한번 여쭙고 싶고요. 다른 나라에서는 어떠한 녹색 금융제도를 가지고 있고 개선을 위해서 논의가 진행되고 있는지 여쭙고 싶습니다. 감사합니다.
Yeah, thank you. With regards to the question on peak demand, Germany uses a certain amount of reserve capacity that are usually not running, but like in times of peak demand, these reserve capacities would go into the production, and in the past this has been more like some parts of gas and coal power plants, and now these are mostly gas power plants, and those reserve capacity installations receive some remuneration for being reserve capacities. So the operators, they get a certain amount even when they are not producing, because of keeping them in that status of on demand they can produce. So this is the way how we tackle these peak demand situation. And your other question in relation to the flexibilities, yes, it is clear that renewable energies are more flexible and production, and you have to ensure like the quality there. I think one measure is to have like more storage facilities, partly that could be like battery systems. For example, on the small units in Germany in the past, it was directly fed into the grid. Now the small units at home are automatically sold together with storage batteries as the battery prices dropped. So it goes together so that when there is high supply of electricity from renewables, then these individual households may fill up their batteries and no longer put the electricity to the grid. An important component of that flexibility are also smart grids. So, for example, we try to couple large electricity demand locations like refrigeration installations so that they can get off the grid in case of high demand situations, and using smart grid options and smart technology to steer that process. Because for them, like being out of electricity for 5 hours doesn't matter at all. They keep cool for that time and then they would switch in later on. So we have doing a lot of work on how to best use these smart grid options. In terms of storage, Germany is also looking at other options like pump storage facilities and also when you go to a higher share of electricity in cars, it depends very much when the cars are loaded, and with the tariff system for electricity in cars, when this has become a larger share in the economy, it offers also a good reaction to the flexibility. And a lot of, for example, car drivers could load the cars overnight at their homes when usually the other electricity demand is low. So when you try to think that in a comprehensive way, there is not one solution, but a lot of small solutions to these new challenges that represent a high share of renewables.
I guess one thing I would, or maybe 2 points to add to Anka's very good answer. In Australia, we have a system where the generators dispatch into a wholesale market and they make price bids for every 5 minutes for the right to dispatch. It means that the peak demand periods in each day come with a very high price in our wholesale market system. And that in itself is a spur to encourage the kinds of technology and responses that Anka pointed to. And that is part of the way we will encourage a better time profile of demand throughout the day. These markets are sometimes quite difficult to organise and to regulate, and so just in the last few weeks we have considered proposals in Australia to expand the number of consumers that may also bid into this market. So, for example, when the price is high, often what happens is that we have hydroelectric power that can be dispatched very quickly, which supplies power for a short time during the peak of the day. But also we are looking now at giving large consumers, let's say like an aluminium smelter, to have the right to bid in and to shut down their demand in return to the compensation. So there are price mechanism tools which help us to manage those peaks in demand. Yeah.
Who will answer this question?
Just very quickly, because I think Anka and Rob has covered most of the answers. And I think for China, there's some different nature, as China is a very large country. So actually, most of our energy resources located in the western parts of China. both the coal, natural gas, as well as the non-fossil fuels like wind and solar. So we have our portfolio or package we call thermal and wind. So we will combine the non-fossil fuels and fossil fuels together to make the grid stable. And also in China, we are constructing the very powerful grid, like the very super high voltage grid, which is for China technology is very advanced. So we'll make the grid very stable to absorb all the energy from western to east. And also, similar as Australia, we have the bid system for the big consumers, such like the steel industries, like they have the bid systems to have this direct access to the grid and to have this to be to be controlled on this peak and high demand system. And also, we have compiled all the hydro to be a kind of controller of this system. So as Anka mentioned, it's no one-step solution, but it's a comprehensive portfolio, and you have to build a different combination of grid, including both the high-speed grid as well as the smart grid, regional ones.
Thank you. With regards to renewable energy increase, we should also think about the how to manage the renewable energy, how to connect the grid system. So in a sense, off-grid electricity are also very important, and we should consider the cybersecurity issues, some of the vulnerability of the connecting from renewables to grid system is sometimes it's not easy. Anyway, now is another question was raised by Dr. Hanake. That is finance issues. That is green finance. So in a sense, I'd like to give the priority to Rob because she emphasized the case of Australia.
Thank you, and thank you, Professor, for your question. So in Australia, we have a body which we call the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, the CEFC. It's been in existence for about 6 years, and the idea is it is a green bank that will lend for activities for climate-related purposes, and specialising in climate-related purposes. So I think it's fair to say that a lot of the renewable technologies that you saw in my chart are actually funded by more traditional methods, perhaps. A lot of capital comes in from overseas, from China, places like that, to fund our expansion in our mainstream technologies. But for more interesting, innovative possibilities, so for example, the Clean Energy Finance Corporation just funded a virtual power station amongst households with their solar cells just very recently in Melbourne. So this bank, it was funded by equity from the government, but it's meant to be a profit-making return as it's concerned. So there's no annual contribution from the government. It was set up once and all with an equity contribution of $10 billion, and it's meant to survive under its own steam, making good lending decisions.
Yeah, Peter, thank you. In relation to green investments, we also have a specific bank who is funding green investments, which is close to the government, but we also have more and more the private sector, the private finance sector, who is going into this area that is growing every single year, and it's also closely monitored by some organizations. So it's both the private and the public sector. And in particular, I think your question was also in particular, like what systems do we have for renewables? In the beginning, Germany had a feed-in tariff, so a guaranteed price when renewable electricity was fed into the grid, and that was promised basically to all those that produce renewable energy. And it was differentiated by renewable technology, so different price for wind and photovoltaics and so on. This has been replaced by a tendering process, so the government sets out volumes for different technologies of, like for example, that they would like to have 3,000 megawatts of offshore wind in a certain period, and then they set the time of the auction and also the conditions. And with the introduction of this tendering system, for example, photovoltaics already in the first year the price dropped by 50%. For offshore wind, in that system, we have now received a lot of bids for 0 cent per kilowatt hour. The advantage that they get is the access to the grid is for free when you participate in the tendering process. So offshore wind is no longer really needing any additional support, and they produce to market prices. Photovoltaics have now gone down to 6 cents per kilowatt hours. I converted that, is about like 82.1 per kilowatt hour, and onshore wind is about like 5 cents per kilowatt hour, which is about like 71 per kilowatt hour. So the prices have been going down rather considerably since we introduced this. And for the government, that offers a clear planning scheme, like on the capacities, also in relation to the network expansion and the grid expansion, so they know what the grid can absorb in which time span. So this is how the capacities are determined in that system, and via these bids then we determine the price. There is one additional issue which has been important in Germany, and that is that it was important that those that the civil society and the citizens participate in that system, and that they have an option to participate. For example, renewables have become a large source of income for the agricultural sector, because the farmers, they have the space, they have huge stables where they could put on photovoltaics, they have all the fields where they could put in wind power plants. So in the early parts of the system, they profited quite a lot of the feed-in tariffs, and quite a large part of those that implemented these plans, together with the credits from this green bank, which allowed them to do this investment, they now have a second income, not only their agricultural products, but also the electricity that they get paid for. So they have like 2 columns of their incomes now, which has been a huge advantage for a lot of farmers. And now in that auction system, this is more difficult to continue. So there are special conditions for community projects that participate in these tender processes in order to make it also favorable for like citizens that are pulling together for bidding, or also farmers associations and so on.
Thank you. Okay, then.
Thank you. I just want to share one of the case of China that about the green finance. That I went to the Hangzhou province 3 days ago for the investigation, and I think most of you may know the Alibaba Group of China, and it's a very huge company that has a lot of products. And I think it's a very good signal to know that some product under this group already have the linkages with the green investment. And one of their entrepreneurs is the Ant Finance. They already has produced and very creative and initiative product related to the forest and to protect the forest under this company. Its name is Ant Financing. So it's a very good signal to know that some entrepreneurs and private sectors already have a sense to have a green finance, and also to urge the public to have the sense that connecting with their daily life on the green format of try to find the green transition of their daily life. So I think it's a very small case, but they have already had 500 users in China, and it's a very huge public awareness case that to use this kind of product that to achieve all the public could know that climate change and also the green development is very important in the future. So we can see from this case is that it's a very promising future to achieve more green investment and green development in the future, near future. Thank you.
One simple question to China. The Team Xinqian there's many pilot projects in China. You mentioned in 2016 or the 100 cities already the pilot programs already implemented, and also the 7 pilot cities for ETS emission trading system. Now China introduced a nationwide emission trading scheme. So what's the role? How much it can contribute to the achievement of China's climate change goals by utilizing the ETS systems, and what's going on? So could you please give simple explanation about this?
Actually, so first the China ETS would like to cover 8 sectors, and that actually covered more than 10,000 enterprises, and the rough estimate is covers 40% of total emissions. But in the first stage, it's only now cover the power sectors, so it's not that much. And as our estimate is for the 7 ETS pilots, the carbon trading scheme, the volume is 15 million tons of CO2s. But it's very difficult to add in our 40-45 target because everything is coming together. It's very difficult to separate the emission reduction contribution from the ETS. But back to your point on the pilots, the low carbon pilots, we have tracked the progress of the first batch of 46 cities, low carbon cities, and we found that the carbon intensity actually reduced faster than the national average, which shows that the policies measures for the carbon pilots really works. And there's many good experience sharing and demonstration of the low carbon policies and measures. And in the future, we also have many kind of seminars and workshops to better monitor the process of our ETS. And that's now also our biggest challenges on how to MRV the whole process. And as I mentioned before, the data quality, to be frankly speaking, from the key enterprise still needs to be improved. So now we not only have the third-party verifiers, we also have the fourth-party verifiers. So we will do another round of verification of data from the government side, not only from the third party. So we will have better estimation of the ETS, I think maybe from 2020.
Thank you. Now time is ticking, so we're going to open the floor to get some questions. So please raise your hand to identify yourself and please pinpoint the speaker you want to listen. Okay, so please.
그 해수면 상승과 사막화를 막을 수가 없기 때문에 집권 방법은 계속 지키지만은 보다 하드적인 방법을 취해야 되는데 그게 뭐냐면은 원자력을 이용해 갖고 해수를 담수로 전환해 갖고 사막화를 막는 길입니다. 근데 참 놀랍게도 우리 북쪽에 북한의 그 세계 우량의 그 70% 정도 내장이 돼 있다고 그래요. 그래서 그 아까 우리 기후 그 대사님 말씀처럼 그 세계의 첫 번째 위험이 기후 변화고 두 번째가 핵 위험인데 그 북쪽에다가 UN 클라이메이트 체인지 에너지 리서치 센터 존을 설치해서 그거 막는 법을 연구들을 해야 됩니다. 그래서 지금 당장에 유럽이 사막화되고 있는데 지중해하고 아프리카가 이제 그렇게 이제 시작을 해야 되는 연구를 좀 이렇게 외국 분들이 오셨는데 그런 연구들 좀 심도 있게 좀 하시기 바랍니다. 저기 이렇게 제안으로 말씀드리는 그런 드립니다.
아까 석탄 부분에 감축 비용을 CO 톤당 40, 우리가 40유로로 설정하시는데 또 그런 계산 과정에서 나왔는지 아니면 도대체 이제 어느 정도의 비용이 들어가고 이게 독일 경제에 이카노미 그로스에 어느 정도의 영향을 미칠 것인지에 대한 혹시 분석도 있는지 좀 질문해 주셨습니다.
Well, of course, there have been cost estimates done in a real scientific estimation, and this could be something I can pass to you after the conference, in the detailed. There are very detailed materials where this is explained. The number that I have used is more coming from what was agreed now in practice, like the amount of money that will go into this compromise to phase out coal, both to the regions and to the operators, and what the amount of emission reductions we will achieve. And in that way, it is still for Germany on a rather low side of abatement costs compared to other options. But it is not so costly from that perspective that coal regions are regions that are not very prosperous in economic terms. Not all of them, we have 4 regions, but 2 have quite economic problems. So the government anyway needs to do something about these problems in those regions and try to think about how to further support those regions. So from this perspective, it is not only a climate issue, but it's more a general issue of having similar living conditions all over the countries, and to get into a good structural change for that region, not only from coal out of new business and economic opportunities. We managed this already in other areas in Germany in the past, where the regions now are well off again after they have phased out coal, and we hope that we are also able to manage that in these other regions now.
Thank you, Anki. Our time is very delayed, so it's time to wrap up. But before wrapping up this session 1, I'd like to emphasize that the importance of addressing climate change issues with the highest sense of urgency. And the Paris Agreement is based on the nationally determined characteristics. That means, the national government has more more room to decide, and we should encourage their efforts. And even if we each country achieves their goals, is far beyond from the global goals targets. So we should give cooperation to each countries. Germany is aimed at achieving the decrease of the greenhouse gases emissions by 55% by 2030 by absolute target, and also Australia is 26 to 28% reduction compared to 2005 by 2030, and also China as the carbon intensity target that is decreased to 60 to 65% by BAU or by 2030. That is nationally determined. So they're committed to achieving the climate change targets. Now is the good opportunity and good momentum to exchange information and ideas. And we should not give blame, just give applause. that, I'll wrap up by giving applause to the speakers and panelists. Thank you very much.
Please give a big round of applause to our chair.